There's my swordfish breakfast.
変更運賃法の施行に伴い、当社では自動運転を防止するため、バス停留所付近を終日全面禁煙とさせていただいております。
おはようございます。
おはようございます。今は割れにくいように巻いときますか。
Seafood pasta salad. Hey, so yeah, I have had a pretty good reading day, but I haven't got as much done as I would have liked. I always look the wrong place because I have other stuff going on today, BookTube related, and that is finalizing my videos for the BookTube prize. And I've got two more. They're short reviews. Editing them is no big deal, but it's time to do those next. So I thought I'd just check in and kind of wrap up my reading day because I don't think I'm going to get much more reading done today. So let me just stop here in a minute. Hold the book up for a minute. I finished, not this entire book, this is two novellas, but I finished the novella called Reading Turgenev by William Trevor, buddy read with Brian of Bookish. And it was excellent. 5-star read. I complained a little bit yesterday about the pacing, but it was a minor flaw compared to the things that I really loved. So it's kind of a dark story about a woman's descent into mental illness. It's an open question actually, but certainly themes of mental illness and unhappy marriage and first love and obsession, and Protestant Catholic divide, social, economic, and otherwise, from the late 1950s to, oh, that's a beautiful sky. Let's look at the sky, shall we? I don't know how well my camera's gonna pick that up, but beautiful writing, really well drawn characters. That's what I always say when I like a book. But the flaw was that there was a modern story being told at the same time that the old story was being told, and it was pretty easy to figure out a lot of what was coming, so that there was a sense of anticlimax. And I found myself a few times getting restless, like, okay, we know what's going to happen, so just get to the point here. But there was enough surprises and things that made me gasp that I didn't actually, my thoughts that it was dragging subsided by the end. So that's, I do think probably William Trevor is more of a short story writer than a novelist, just because he's celebrated as a short story writer, and this one did have some problems with pacing. That is just another very tentative quote-unquote proof for my running theory that you're either a short story writer or a novelist, not both. So I'll keep researching, people. Don't at me. Anyway, really love that. I have read several more pages, quite a chunk more of the Rebecca West's The Good Soldier. Is that the title? The Good Soldier. Here's the title. And I'm really enjoying it. I wasn't sure by the time I finished yesterday. It was starting to feel a little bit twee. I wasn't sure about this amnesia cliche, but if there's such a thing as an amnesia cliche in literature, Rebecca West was probably one of the first people to employ it. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, because no, I'm past that and really enjoying the writing. Is gorgeous. And so did I say this yesterday? The World War I soldier returns, and he has lost about 15 years of his memory, and so he is still deeply in love with his first girlfriend, and they had broken up 15 years ago, and he's married with a family. He has no memory of any of that, and he comes back to his wife. And, you know, that's a little bit, but now that I'm far enough into it, and he is reminiscing with his cousin about his love for this other woman, yeah, it's beautifully written, and I'm sucked in, so I'll keep reading it. I was hoping to finish it today. I didn't finish it today. And I didn't have read not even quite one chapter more in this Chilean novel, The Remainder, by Alia Trabuco Zeran. I'm still not sure if I'm enjoying it. But I'm not far enough in. So now that the William Trevor novel is finished, I have the weekend to focus on it and finish up the Rebecca West and the Denton Welch, which I'm absolutely loving, but I haven't picked it up in a couple days because of other things. And this is not part of Reading Rush, but I read the first 3 chapters of this, Ian Lee's latest novel, and just totally bowled me over with its emotional power. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to say too much about it on the Reading Rush VeeLog. But I still have one more novel, the Gloria Naylor novel, Bailey's Cafe, and I think as of tonight I'm just going to call it and say there's no way that I can fit that in, finishing this stuff up. If I can fit a 7th book in, I thought I might swap it out for Jane Austen's novella, Lady Susan, which is like 100 pages, and that would give me, I would be able to pay some lip service toward the Jane in July readathon that I just had to completely ignore this month because I had so many other booktube-a-thon, readathon commitments. But I have never read Lady Susan, and I'm not expecting it to be very good. She wrote it when she was 18, and she didn't want it to be published. But maybe, but probably not. Probably I'll just finish up what I've got going on, and that will be a fabulous success, I think. So I'm going home now to open my $10 bottle of wine and edit videos, because you don't need to be sober to edit videos, or if you do, now you know why my video editing is so questionable, so uneven, so creative. Good morning, BookTube. I'm Sean the Bookmaniac. This is my Saturday reads, which will be plunked smack dab in the middle of my Friday and Saturday vlog as part of Reading Rush, but I haven't wrapped up some stuff. I didn't do a Friday reads yesterday because I was busy putting the finishing touches on 6 BookTube Prize related videos, and so I'm going to do a little bit of a Saturday reads, but most of what I have to talk about I've been talking about during the Reading Rush vlogging, and I'm not going to open all that up again and talk about it in great detail. But there's a couple other things that I will talk about more fully, just because I have to talk about every book I read, right? It's 6:45 on Saturday morning. It's already getting humid, but it's bearable. Especially there was a breeze about 10 seconds ago, and it's gone, but it's pretty comfortable. I am a Japanese salaryman widower this morning. My husband didn't come home last night. He went out drinking with his coworkers, and I presume he slept at his boss's house. but I haven't heard from him since about 9 o'clock last night. I was kind of glad that he didn't come home, at least didn't come home early last night, so that I could do all that and watch all the BookTube prize videos and not be having to take care of him or deal with anybody else, just BookTube. But now I'm kind of hoping he's okay. I'm sure he's okay. Now that I've mentioned it, I'll let you know, but yeah, he's fine. So I'm not going to do counting stuff because I was also a bit of a dolt that I didn't bring my second iPad with me. I forgot that in my sleepy-headedness leaving the house before 7 a.m. I always bring it so I can just check my Goodreads while I'm filming. So it's going to be kind of from memory, or I can just stop the video and check and come back and splice it all together, so you would never have known if I hadn't told you I might be doing that, right? But one book that I finished that is not related to Reading Rush is Anita Bruckner's Hotel du Lac, which was a buddy read with Amy of From the Dusty Bookshelf. And I only ended up giving it 3 stars, and I think that's what it deserves. But it was a very thought-provoking 3-star read for me. It was sitting at about a 4. In fact, the first couple chapters I would have said it was a 5-star read. Went down to about 4 in the middle, and then the ending was pretty weak and unbelievable. So it ended up being a 3. But it's the first Anita Bruckner that I've read. Apparently there's a lot of controversy that it won the Booker Prize. Somebody else was supposedly more deserving, but that was a man, so that was probably not true. But it doesn't seem like a prize-winning novel to me. She's an interesting writer, gorgeous sentences. One of them was my Sunday sentence last week. There was a lot of ruminative and engrossingly ruminative writing about being a writer as opposed to being in the world, sitting back and observing people versus getting into relationships. But I think I might even reread this because it was a hefty Unsatisfied. Like it packed a punch for being such a small novel, and I haven't quite made my peace with this. But I don't know whether I'll reread it. I might try another one. Amy mentioned one that she loved. I've forgotten what it was, but it's written down somewhere. Thought for years that I wouldn't like her, and I didn't love her. Didn't love this book, but there were things about it that really captured my imagination. So there was that. I have already mentioned this in my VeeLog this week, but I started and finished Keenan Jones's novella Cove, and again, 3-star read. It's probably a 5-star read for the kind of reader that likes this kind of a man against the elements tale. I don't. It was really well done, beautiful writing, but I wanted much, much more, and this was rather paltry, I thought. I also finished William Trevor's novella. It's a novel, it's not a novella. 220 pages. Reading Turgenev, a buddy read with Brian. It was an awesome buddy read. Brian's in my first, and I don't think it'll be our last. And I gave it 5 stars. It doesn't show up on Goodreads with a rating because it's in two novels in one book. So it's still at about a 60% mark on Goodreads. We'll do the second novel later, probably not in August. I gave it 5 stars despite a couple reservations about pacing, and then as I sat with it through the day yesterday, I think even more enthusiastic 5 stars. It's leaving a marvelous aftertaste, and I'm really thinking about the central protagonist and her supposed mental illness, and in fact coming to think kind of a la Ian Lee's approach to life. And I wonder, I have to go back and see what Ian Lee wrote about this. Brian, have you done that? I haven't done that yet. In her collection, because that's where I heard about this novel, and that's why I read it. Maybe it was just in the recommended works at the back. Maybe she didn't address it, but I'm going to check that because there's something kind of Ian Lee-ish about how Trevor creates enough ambiguity in the story that one possible way of reading it, and the one that I've kind of latched onto, is she was the hero of her own life, and she made her life beautiful, safe, but also kind of a creative celebration of meaningfulness. It was pretty weird, but my celebration of meaningfulness is considered to be pretty weird by the overwhelming majority of people around me too. I loved it. I bailed on my first try of the Furrowed Middlebrow imprint, Alice by Elizabeth Elliot. Really dull story and flat, uninteresting characters, but a lot of lively, witty writing, and that only got me a third of the way into the book, and then I was just like, no. So I tried. Don't agree with the Queen Mom on everything. A couple that I have started, non-reading rush related. Last weekend I started this as an audio text combo, Sons and Lovers by D.H. Lawrence. It's for a buddy read I'm doing with my dear friend Gwen. We're going to talk about it when I go back to Saskatoon in a couple weeks. And I'm really enjoying it, actually. Much more than I thought I would. I ditched this physical copy. It's attractive, but there's a lot of typos in it. So, and I got a free Kindle, and I'm doing it on audio. The audio is wonderful. I don't remember the name, audio narrator, but I'll put his name in the show notes because he does a wonderful job. Yeah, it's really engrossing. It's about a poor family. The wife comes from a richer family, and her husband is poor, and they have a very unhappy marriage, and that often could be very dull, but so far in D.H. Lawrence's hands, it's really engrossing, and I'm just 10% in, maybe 16% in, and I'm not touching it this week during reading rush, but I will read/listen to as much as possible from Monday to Wednesday, and then finish it up on the plane, hopefully in 2 weeks. But yeah, it's wonderful. And yesterday, Britta and I started our buddy read of Ian Lee's latest novel, Where Reasons End, and it took me about a chapter and a half to kind of get into the groove of what she's doing here, and once I got to that point, I was emotionally engrossed as I had been in her essay collection, Dear Friend, and much more than I ever got with her collection of short stories that I read a few weeks ago. It's a novel about a woman whose 16-year-old son commits suicide. Ian Lee's son committed suicide just a couple years before this was written. I think he was the same age, probably even the same name, but I don't know that, so no, don't quote me on that part. And it is playful. The playfulness of the imagined conversation she's having in some space that she's created in her imagination for a conversation with him. The banter between them is just wonderful and unexpected, and so it makes the emotional, the grief, so much easier to step into as a reader. Britta and I are already having some fascinating conversations about how much does the fact that we know that this is based very heavily, I mean, obviously the imagined conversation, I mean, is it a memoir? I don't think so, because it's an imaginary conversation, but it's based on a true experience, and I'm unable to separate that out and don't want to separate my knowledge of the autobiographicalness of this from my reading experience, but it's really working beautifully so far. 3 chapters only. 3 more today, 3 more tomorrow, and then we might pick up the pace after the reading rush ends. We'll see. It's pretty heavy, as well as being playful. So, but beautiful. Loving it so far. The first 3 chapters, loving it. Oh. From memory, what I've got on the go for the reading rush is this Chilean novel that was shortlisted. I don't know if it was longlisted. Shortlisted for the Booker International Prize. The Remainder by Alia Trabuco Zaran. I read 1 more chapter only yesterday, and I'm finally starting to get into the story and starting to get invested. So I'm going to hopefully make a lot of headway with this today, if not finish it. I've read the first 20 pages of this. I've talked about it more than I wanted to in my VeeLogs, because I'm supposed to be saving this for Doris's and my discussion video, but I will finish this up today or tomorrow so that I can count it for reading rush. Loved the first 20 pages. now I am predicting that Denton Welch's novel, A Voice Through a Cloud, I think I've got it, that is an autobiographical novel about his bike pedestrian accident that maimed him and left him severely disabled with all kinds of health problems in his early 20s, and foreshortened his life. He died maybe aged in his early 30s in about 1948. It's so beautiful and a challenging read, but really, really well done so far. So yeah, I've started that. And after I bailed on Alice, I picked up Rebecca, and that not the Demori novel, but Rebecca West's novel called, I think I called it The Good Soldier earlier in this vlog, but it's not. It's something Soldier. The Return of the Soldier, I think it's called. Really enjoying it too. I've just mentioned it last night, so I'm not going to say any more. It's in progress. And as I said last night, I was hoping to get to Gloria Naylor's Bailey Cafe. I think that's unrealistic with the amount of books that I've got on the go. I'm considering if I think I can squeeze one more shorter novel in to make up my 7 books in 7 days. I might try Lady Susan by Jane Austen, which I have on my Kindle. I've never read it. It's like 100 pages. But I think even that might be unrealistic, so I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm reading some really great books, especially the Denton Welch. The Rebecca West is really good. I'm getting more into the Chilean novel. That might be all that and I'm doing 3 chapters a day of the Ian Lee novel, so I think I've probably got my reading cut out for me between now, 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, and midnight on Sunday. But my husband hasn't come home yet, so maybe I can read 3 more books. But anyway. Oh, and next, I believe it's Thursday, whenever August 1st is, I believe that's Thursday, is Women in Translation Month, and I'm hoping to clear my slate of all ongoing books, and if they're not clear, they will be set aside for 1 month, because I'm going to read almost exclusively Women in Translation. So excited. Tonight I will film my TBR. That will go up maybe Monday or Tuesday. And yeah, then I'm going to hit the ground running, but I'm not going to speculate here on what of those books I might have started by my regularly scheduled Friday reads next week, but there'll be a bunch of those to tell you about. So, let's continue with the vlog, shall we? Hey again, well, here I am, Saturday afternoon, about 3:30. My husband has been found. He's at work after his night of crazy drinking. He went straight back to work. So, I'm having a great solitary reading day. I watched Natalie of My Reading Days vlog from the readathon today, the one she put up today. On the vlog, she realized she had no idea how fast she read, like how many pages in an hour. So she timed herself and she measured it. And I thought, well, why don't I do that? So I'm not a fast reader at all, and I don't care to read any faster than I do. Like, I know some people speed read or whatever, and I think that I have no interest in it. I read a lot, but I don't read fast. So I think I'm gonna have a pretty low count, but I've never timed myself, never in my life. I have no idea. 20 pages an hour? 30 at the most? That's my prediction. Between 20 and 30 pages an hour, that's what I'm gonna guess. Hi. Let's go. Well, look at me go. I read 62 pages. That's a lot more, double what I thought. So yeah, I'd never ever measured. So I had a good good hour of reading. I think that's all I want to say for now. Oh, that's the Japanese dog. I forget what's the name of it. I'm not a pet person, but it is a beautiful dog. Yeah, I'm still not sure about the Chilean one. It's a little weird, but I'm interested. Not sure how interested yet. And I have to say the Rebecca West is definitely holding my interest, but it's really flowery prose, which sometimes is excessive for me. It's a little sickly sweet just on occasion. And it's now getting pretty psychoanalytic. Not sure. So Denton, you may be the only one that I'm gonna love in an unmitigated way as I finish up Reading Rush.